It is time to make the sound to summon the stream. Wah, 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 wah. That transition was way too fast. Why is my transition... There we go. Okay. Somehow I removed one of the zeros from that, and it went from 7,000 milliseconds to 700. Greetings, dear viewers. I'm Coil Quickcard, and welcome back to the Community RPG Maker Project. What's with the music? It's just there. Field 2. Why not? Oh, nope, not Field 2. Oh, sorry about that. Apparently it was Field 3. Damn it. Last time I got... Oh my god, how many times is that going to happen today? Last time, we got the interiors and exteriors of our, Okay, it would be great if that could stop now. We got the interiors and the exteriors of our next little town built. So that's pretty good. Really? How many times? How many times is that going to happen? That is very unnecessary. Anyway, for today's primary focus, I want to do some brainstorming about what exactly is going to be in this next part of the game. I can literally feel another sneeze building. That is so annoying. Okay. I think it's actually a bit better now. Anyway. Yes, today's primary function is going to be brainstorming stuff that we are going to have in the next section of the game. So, what do we know that we have so far? We're going to start making some notes. We know that there is the bat that is too small for streaming purposes. Okay. So we know that there is the Batfolk Village. We know that eventually it's going to go to the Catfolk Village. And we know that the whole thing is going to end in a battle against the root beer gods. So what we don't have is everything else that happens. If we take a look at our notes, let's see here. So the overall story we've come up with to start, volume is still a bit much on that. There we go. A little bit of a lower peak. The twin magical cats fled Wallachia as refugees when the false Hydra attack started. They sought help among the people dwelling in the marshlands, the cat people, and the bat folk. But the people turned them away. Desperate, alone, and starving, the root beer gods, Sasp and Saspinarilla offered to save them on the condition that when they die, their souls will belong to the root beer gods. The twin cats incited conflicts between the villages for revenge and to harvest the souls of the dead to empower the root beer gods. The gods promised that if they deliver enough souls, the cats' souls will be freed. The cats' names are Saudi and Sora. So that seems to be the general story about what is going on here. As far as locations know, we have the Village of the Bat Folk, which is what we built last time. It's going to have the next Pepsi Portation location somewhere. New ammo type, poison elemental things. Physical focus, but with a shaman leader. They farm chicken and eggs, I guess. And there's also going to be a village of cat people. There we will get a new party member, the feral friendly feline. There's a copying cat boy, the carton confined cat boy. We can get catnip, and the cat people are generally more magical focused, but their leader is a warrior. And somewhere in all of this insanity, we are going to be adding a hookshot mechanic to get across certain areas of the swamp. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on. One thing I do know for certain, just from the way the geography is set up, is that there's basically a cave that is separating the two parts of this island, between the Batfolk territory and the Catfolk territory. So we can make a note of that. The separation cavern. What do you think of my revamped type matchups? I still have not looked at them enough to have like a meaningful evaluation. So the question is, what else happens? We need to come up with ideas. Yeah, poison gas dungeon, that's definitely a thing. So, a poison gas dungeon, that's definitely something we want. We need to introduce the hookshot somewhere. If we have the poison gas dungeon be like a swampy area, I think a hookshot... Honestly, the hookshot is always really good wherever there's gaps, so either a swamp or cave setting are both very natural places for that. Of course, we need our new party member. We need the big bad evil guy intro. So, how do we want to design this? Narratively, we are coming here, and we can easily lock out access to any of the other areas here by having you have to use the hookshot system in order to like get past the entrance areas. So it's not too hard to lock out everything else on this part of the island, meaning that the player will have to be funneled into going here to the Batfolk village. So, how and why are the players getting, like, this hook shot item? Presumptively, they are being recruited, hired. Honestly, maybe it's just that they're telling them they need to reach, like, Pepsi Land. Honestly, that's actually workable. If they come here and if they tell them, oh, we need to reach Pepsi Land, and the guys can be like, oh, well, you need this to reach Pepsi Land. We'll give it to you if you do this for us. And then, like, a small favor sort of leads into the rest of the story for this area. That might work. It's a little bit funky, though. As far as the actual Pepsi headquarters, something like this might work for the Pepsi headquarters. That's not a bad design. Or we could just go with a tower or something like this. We need to figure out exactly where we are placing things. Okay. We could... we could just have going to the Pepsi headquarters actually be integrated into the act, as opposed to something that only happens after it. So if you get a hook shot, you head to the Pepsi headquarters, and then the Pepsi headquarters guys can sort of give you the mission to, like, solve all the weird goings-on here. Which would make sense if they know or suspect that the root beer gods are involved. I think that works. Okay. So we would start with the Batfolk mission. And then we would have a small mission to get Hookshot, which the Batfolk village leads to. And that lets you go to Pepsi Land. And then Pepsi Land can warn about the root beer gods. There are no Pepsi slimes yet. They are on the to-do list. Warn about the root beer gods. So once you know about that, Malter can be given the mission to investigate, and then that can lead to the Separation Cavern, and that leads to the Catfolk Village. And then the Catfolk Village is where we get our new party member. So far, the order of events for this act of the game looks like this. Which is not a bad idea. So I do need to put, like, the Pepsi headquarters somewhere. What if we just stuck it here? Okay. If I do that... then we can have the whole area leading into it be marshland? Okay, yeah, we kind of conceal the entrance a little bit. So then we just need an access point. Okay. Okay, so if this is the Pepsi headquarters... we can put one of those little oases here. Just to sort of indicate, like, an entrance. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. So this will be the entrance to a swamp area that lets you access Pepsi Land. Okay. So we're going to take this whole section. So you have a small mission to get the hook shot, and this is going to lead to the Poison Marsh, which you need the hook shot in order to cross. So the Poison Marsh leads to Pepsi Land. Pepsi Land gives you next Pepsi Port location and shortcut back. And then this is where you also learn about the root beer gods and get, you know, like roughly your mission for the rest of the act. So that way I don't have to worry about sticking a Pepsi dealer into one of the small villages. So that actually works pretty good to open up this act of the game, I think. So, where do we go to get the hook shot? We want there to be some kind of dungeon or mission that you do in order to get the hook shot. So, what should that be exactly? I haven't done, like, a proper mountain dungeon in a while. They could just have you go to, like a mountain or hill or something. We could also just go for, like, a subterranean cavern. Although we've done so much underground stuff in the last act, may not want to go that direction. Hello, Nix. Welcome to the stream. We are currently brainstorming ideas for the next big act of the project. So far, the stuff in this act of the game roughly looks like this. So what I'm trying to figure out is what kind of a mission the characters can go on in order to get a hook shot. And I really am feeling most interested in just sticking this rock here and having like a hill or mountain to climb. That'll be a really nice change of pace after all of the underground stuff in Act 2. Building mountain maps is always a challenge. But if we sort of use this as like a hook shot tutorial area, it can be relatively Esselcourt. I don't know what that is. I think it works. Okay. So a small mission to get the hook shot, which takes you to Swamp Mountain. Okay. So you take the ship, you land here on this island, you go to the Bat Village, you talk to them, they tell you, oh, well, you need a hook shot to reach Pepsi headquarters. But our guy with the hook shot is over here. You should go find him. So you go here. You go through a dungeon. Okay, it's not a long dungeon, but you go through a dungeon and it's pretty winding to reach the end of it to find the guy who has the hook shot. And then you use the hook shot to shortcut back out of it. That's good dungeon design right there. And then once you have that, then we can move on to the Poison Marshes and go through to the Pepsi headquarters. Okay. That works. That works pretty good. So this is where you get the next Pepsi porting location. And then leaving from here, the hook shot lets you get back through the marsh pretty easily. So you can quickly be back in the world map. And then you're sent to investigate and to figure all this out. So you go through the cave system here, which lets you access the other part of the island. So now we're on this part of the island. How... Ideally, we want to give the player something they can do on this part of the island. I think it would be a good idea if on this section of the island... There we go. You have to, like, complete a mission, which will unlock another dock here. And having another dock will mean that you can now go back and forth to both sides of the island without having to pass through the cave. So that should be the next thing we focus on, is what are we going to do on the northern part of the island to get a dock going. We can probably just put something from the tile set here. Even if it's just a tent, like someone who's trying to, like, repair the dock. I don't suppose I have, like, a damaged dock or something on this. Not really. So I can't visually show. I could just have a dock here already, but if you try to interact with it, it could, like, have some dialogue that it's too damaged. That could work. That could work. Okay. Okay. So we need a jungle dock switch to check this. So catfolk dock fixed. So it will only apply if the catfolk dock is fixed. Otherwise, if you interact with it, it will simply say, the dock is too damaged to safely anchor? To safely anchor the ship here. The dock is too damaged to safely anchor the ship here. Otherwise, it just works like normal. Okay. I think that will work. And then we are going to need... There we go. There we go. Copy and paste these. Wait. Okay. So yeah, we only need one version where we don't have the shit. And does that work? Let's test it. It is probably going to be a bit of a shorter stream today. Really just mostly focused on... Okay. Really just focused on doing a bit of brainstorming today. So we don't want any visual for this. Okay. All right, let's give it a try. Okay, the dock is too damaged. There's no real reason not to have an escort mission. I just haven't added it to the list yet. Can you expand on your concept for escort mission? Okay. Okay, same as characters, action button. We really don't need any solid indicator here. I think I may have also just noticed an issue with my map. Okay, Okay. So when we get on the boat, we need a different set of music. So which one... which one do we want to do here? Okay, that works fine. Does going back into loading the same map but a different location force it to change the music, or am I going to need a manual music change on both locations? No. Okay. So only the disembarkation needs the ship music change. And we put that after the transfer. 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 Alright, I think that's all the docks in the world I've currently built. But this does mean I'm also going to need to do that when we exit to the ship. My idea was the escort mission is tied to the hookshot thing. Yeah, we can just have the players escort. We could have the escort mission at Swamp Mountain with the NPC. So, Swamp Mountain escort mission. Okay. So, that works. Which does bring me back to... does bring me back to the question of what we do up here with the cat folk. This is where we're getting our next character. The feral friendly feline. So how do we go about doing that, and how do we tie a new party member's story into this? Okay, how do we do this? Well, it's easy enough to lock out stuff on the northern part of the island by having it be inaccessible until you get the cat party member, which we could also use to lock out some more stuff here on the southern part. And once we can access the water again, we can also put things on some of these smaller islands. So we actually have enough space to work with overall. It's just a matter of how we utilize it. Okay. We could have the cat folk be concerned that their catnip supplies have been cut off. That's one way we could go about it. We could go with, like, a lost or missing NPC that you have to go recover. We can have a treasure or artifact they need you to recover. We can have some kind of trial they need you to overcome. That's another popular possibility. Cat people. Where do we go with the cat people? They are also going to have a relatively small village, the same way that I did with the bat folk. So whatever we come up with, it needs to be rather more limited in scope. So how do I work with that? Nintendo canceled my ZA pre-order? I'm so sorry, Cole. That sucks. How do I make this work? Okay. Alright, let's start writing, let's start making lists here. So Catfolk Village, things that we need to do. We need to express animosity for the Bat Folk. We need to introduce the new party member. We need to introduce a mission that leads to fixing the dock. These are the three main narrative things that need to happen in the Catfolk Village. So, fixing a dock, that could be a matter of supplies. They could send you off in order to get supplies to fix the dock. That would be pretty basic. That would be pretty simple. Alternatively, we could have monsters at the dock. So we can get supplies to fix the dock, or clear the dock of monsters. One or both of these would be a good way to advance the story at this point. We also need some kind of narrative thrust for this new party member to join. Some reason that this cat person in particular has decided to go with the party. I guess one of the big problems is that so far we don't really know much about this new party member. So let's think about this new party member first. We know they are a cat person. And honestly, that's about it. We don't really know much aside from that. So we need mechanics ideas. The first thing I came up with just in the last 2 seconds was abilities that deal extra damage to specific types of enemies. Birds, reptiles, etc. Catnip Junkie, that does kind of work. I think there's a lot we can work with for that. Cat-themed abilities and mechanics. Certainly that will be important. What else? What else can we come up with for this party member? Personality, backstory, mechanics, just literally any ideas that can be thrown out for this new party member. Might be a little easier if we just start working on them. So, let's do that. Okay. Cat ears. First name suggestion is Catasby. One of the important things for any cat character is having the right kind of hair. And that's actually really important because we need to hide the ears. There we go. We'll get these real small ones. And then we need to make sure that we hide the ears. What if we did something like this? Something that, like, covers an eye? Go for, like, more of, ooh. Yeah, like, what if we went for a design more like this? Okay. The Bat folk all had a darker complexion. We could try to go for contrast, or honestly, I kind of like that. Where are my bat folk? No, I gave all the bat folk like reddish skin. I kind of like this for a skin color. Basically, no one in the party right now has long hair. So we could definitely go for long-haired cat boy. This one definitely has more texture to it. Really doesn't fully cover the scalp, though. Okay. Yeah, this hair... What if he's actually half Catboy, half Bat? And at the end of the act unites the tribes? Okay. I like that. Catasby, they are a cat person, but actually half cat, half bat. Then we can play around with their abilities a bit, too. No, the facial hair just doesn't really work here. These ears and eyes... This whole face just doesn't look especially good right now. Had to go away for a while. Still brainstorming? It's still brainstorming, but not just dungeons. We're just trying to come up with basically anything we can. Right now, kind of designing our next party member. The Batfolk all mostly had green eyes. So we could give, like, green eyes to this character, sort of in a, like, a subtle little way. Do we have a single fang mouth? Single fang mouth is always a staple. We've got vampire fangs. I think the right nose would help tie together. What do you think about this, just for the facial structure? I think it kind of works. Hair might not be quite what I'm hoping for. This one is definitely giving the character generator a run for its money, that's for sure. The one I cover is a pretty classic look. Okay. No, I think this one... I think this design just works better. I could still play with the face and the expressions a little bit. Do we want to stick with blonde, or do we want to come up with a different hair color? I could also potentially add, like, some scars. We want a tail as well. Something about the design isn't working for me, and it might just be the hair color. Let's take a look at some other options. Okay. Some of these definitely do pop out the design more. The bat folk all had horns. I really don't need that. The green eyes are like the hint to this character's lineage. The blonde works really well. But I'm also a big fan of the blues, the turquoise. Come on, T, you have to help me today. Okay. I think we really need to go with this, skin tone in order to match the ears. I think I like this design. But this one's a little more visually interesting. The contrast that comes with this one is especially good, though. Okay. Alright, I think this is it. I think this is the face of our cat boy. So now we need to dress and accessorize him. Honestly, the facial mark probably is one of the better things we could fit on here. There. What about a scar just right there across the face? There we go. Okay, it's a nice little subtle feature. I like that. I don't think we really need to accessorize him much. Probably okay to just go into the clothing section. Okay. So, what do you wear? We could go for keeping the character mostly topless, at least in their own sprite. I actually kind of really like this design. We just need to give it some real good color. Okay. Okay. This one fine. And then finally, the last one is the color of their boots. Okay. Okay, I think this is our newest character. And the only name that got thrown out was Catasby. So I guess that's going to be their name. Catasby. Alright. There. So now we need a few basic sprite sheets. And the Battler sprite is Catasby. So now we need more faces. There we go. Just a few basic expressions. We're going to make this character fairly expressive. It's gonna have a unique final attack. Could it be called Catastrophe? Yeah, that's a good name for an attack. Okay, mechanics. Catastrophe. And we'll have a very shocked expression. There we go. All right, that is a great shocked expression. Okay. And let's see, another eye expression. There we go, that's a good one. Does this mean that now it's time to start thinking about a party switch system? RPG Maker already lets you, by default, just switch around your party members using the formation tab in the menu. So luckily we won't have to worry about it too much. We're just going to have one where they are completely refusing to look at or acknowledge anything. Okay, I need, like, one more expression. So... How about, like, a really, really angry one? I want, like, a murderous rage. It's hard to get quite what I'm going for here. You know, this might have worked better if at any point during this process I had remembered to give them eyebrows. Damn it. Okay. No. 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 Hello, Mystic Moth. Welcome to the stream. You know what? Screw it. Let's give him that one. And let's try to give them the biggest eyes I can find. Okay, that works. Alright, so here are the various faces of our newest character. So now that we have the faces of our character, why exactly are they joining your party? That is the question. Promising catnip. Yeah, if we want to dig into the junkie position, that could definitely work. Okay. He guards the hook shot at the top of the mountain. You fight him as a boss and promise catnip to him. That's not a bad idea. But I really don't have an enemy asset that would work for that. That's the only real problem. Is I would still need an asset to use for the actual fight. Just put a piece of his Battler Sprite in there. His Battler Sprite is like 40 pixels tall. It would look completely completely out of place and disconnected from any other enemy sprite. If I upscale it, it's just gonna look super blurry. It's not impossible, though. Let's see how that would look. We can at least try that. Side view. Actors. Katasby. Open with GIMP. Okay, so first thing we need to do is flip all this. Determine which one of these I want to use. Probably this one. Okay. And crop to content. What is the size I'm looking at here? This is 62 by 75 pixels. So let's crop to the content. Honestly, even if we just double this, hold on. Let's go by percent. That's still a bit small. Let's go up to about 250%. Fit the canvas to the layers. And then can I sharpen it up a bit? I don't actually know how to sharpen this stuff. Okay. We can sharpen it up a little bit. And then go ahead and export that as a side view enemy. Alright, let's see how this would look. I can already tell that's going to look a little rough. Well, his hair is literally penetrating his hand. But it is doable. And I do like how defined his chest is. So I think we can do that. So the Swamp Mountain Escort mission, which includes fight with Katasby, so you find Katasby, you fight him on the top of the mountain, you drive him off with the promise of catnip. So then when you do finally get to the Catfolk village, Katasby won't do anything because you have to go to the docks to get catnip that monsters stole. Otherwise, they just won't let them work with you. But you do get the catnip and you bring it back. And then that is when Katasby joins you. So at this point, you would now have the hookshot, the new party member, and access to the dock up here, which could potentially open up the rest of the entire area to exploration. So I think this is a good roadmap for the first part of Act 3. This gets you multiple things that unlocks different areas, that lets you move around and access things. This gives you the new party member. Yeah, honestly, I am pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and save it. So we're going to call that the Act 3 map. Alright. And honestly, that's really all I have, like, energy for today. I am quite tired. And my primary focus for today was really just to do this, to get, like, a basic concept for where we're going with Act 3, and a lot of stuff that we can work on over the next few weeks. Realistically, probably we're probably going to be working on this stuff for probably till the end of the year, in all honesty. So I think that's good for now. We easily have more than a month worth of game content to design here, and quite possibly enough to cover the rest of the year. So that's really all I was aiming to do today, and we have achieved that goal beautifully. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. I am going to go lay down and rest. Sorry it's a shorter stream today, but, you know, sometimes that's all you really have the capacity for. So thank you all so much for coming. As always, I really appreciate it. Be here again next week. On Tuesday morning, I will be doing Donkey Kong 64 Creepy Castle, continuing my mad quest to 100% Donkey Kong 64. On Saturday next week, it's going to be more of the NUS Lockout Marathon. I did figure out the problems that we were having with the emulator. We've got that all fixed. The save we were working on is fine. So that's been taken care of. On Sunday next week, we'll be back here again. And then next week, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get Pokemon Legends next week or not. Budget's already fairly tight, and to be honest, I'm not the most excited to dive into it immediately, but I will get around to Legends ZA at some point within the next month. And, I mean, I guess realistically, I've got to do a series on that. The current daily series on this channel is Tactics Ogre Reborn, which I am slowly cheating my way through to the end of. There's also going to be Silk Song episodes that are going to be interspersed with those. And probably Pokemon Legends ZA. In all honesty, I've never really had much luck garnering any audiences by streaming like brand new releases, and streams already put a crunch on my time, so I will probably do regular episodes of Pokemon Legends. So those will probably be starting within the next 2 or 3 weeks as well. So I think that's everything I have to say. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all on the next one, and it is time to make the sound to summon the end of the stream. Wow, 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 wow.